Hi, I'm Dan Troy. I'm the Vice President of Administrative Services. Welcome back to campus for what I'm sure will be an unconventional, but probably great academic year anyway. Today I'm going to talk to you about a few things of importance. One is the economy and what effect that the pandemic has had on our budget, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And then at the end we'll talk a little bit about Measure L as well. So without further ado, I'm going to get started because Jill will probably say I'm going too long. COVID-19 is having a major impact on our economy, as you know. A bad economy has a negative impact on our state's revenues. With that in mind, Governor Newsom identified a budget gap of $54.1 billion. The economy will drag as long as the pandemic continues. The state is relying on limited information to make its decisions, so the budget itself is very uncertain. What's also uncertain is the status of federal stimulus dollars. As of today, Congress has not reached a deal on a new stimulus package. So putting all this in context, there is some concern that I have that there may be mid-year budget revisions. So what was passed in June may not be the last update we'll see to the budget. So the state's approach to this budget situation was to draw down reserves. So the state, unlike prior years, actually had a pretty significant surplus going into this year, so that was some help to them as revenues declined. They did a lot of borrowing and deferring of money into future years, so that does create some risks down the road. They canceled program increases, so there's no growth funding in the budget, there's no COLA this year. That was another way that they closed the budget gap. And they did limit some business tax credits, so some tax increases, if you will, to help solve that problem. In terms of education funding, K-14 revenues were down $10 billion year over year, so that's a very, very large reduction. Despite this, the budget for K-14 education, including community colleges, is essentially flat year over year. So no new COLA, no growth, no new program expansions, but they didn't do direct cuts either. Now, how do they accomplish that? They accomplish that by deferring payments. So almost $1.5 billion of community college funding that we're expected to expend this year is actually going to be funded in the next fiscal year. So there's a check coming to us at the end of the year. So a concern of mine is that the state will enact mid-year cuts because the pandemic is not recovering at the rate I think that was anticipated when they passed the budget back in June. So if things are worse than what they imagined then, they may feel the need to come back and enact some further reductions during the year. I'm also concerned about future years, since a key component of the budget is to borrow into the future. If future years are also bad, that can compound a problem that we see today. What about the SCFF? That's a question I get asked a lot. The state did take action to extend the hold harmless funding for districts through the 23-24 year. So we have 2 additional years of hold harmless ahead of us. Another topic that the state will have to tackle is what to do with the metrics that go into the calculation of the SCFF in a year like we saw last year, where a lot of the metrics are going to be frozen, or it may be difficult for students to transfer, say, to 4-year institutions. I think the state is going to have to come up with a way to adjust some of those factors. With all this in mind, the district has taken a proactive response to the budget to address economic uncertainty. We scooped up about $1.5 million worth of position savings. So that's from vacant positions we simply decided not to fill, and that saves the district quite a bit of money going forward. We're also assuming about $1 million in savings from the early retirement incentive and from vacant positions that will also come open during the year. We've assumed some savings that will happen on the natural since students are on campus. So for example, we'll have savings from hourly positions. We also anticipate that we'll have savings in supplies and also savings from reduced travel since conferences and professional development opportunities have been canceled. The good news with all this is that our proactive strategy has curtailed any need for us at this point in time for furloughs or for layoffs. So we've been able to balance our budget without having to go to those drastic choices. Also, these proactive responses will look good for us when our ACCJC visiting team arrives this fall. So we were very conscious of making sure that we looked fiscally prudent. For more information on the budget, we've actually established a budget information page If you go to the About section of the college's main website, you can see budget information below that. And there we have a lot of information, communications to the community about the budget, links to the actual tentative budget or final budgets, and other pieces of information as well to keep you up to date on what's going on with the budget. Is there any good news? Yes, there is some good news. We have plenty of resources available to assist you if you need PPE. So if you need surgical masks or if you need gloves, we have a lot of those. We have a lot of that equipment on hand. We also have additional funding for equipment needs should you need that. We also have funds available to help in other aspects of instructional delivery, such as professional development or other equipment needs that you might have. So please just let us know if you have any need for those resources. Okay, now we're outside of the new data center to talk a little bit about Measure L. The data center was one of the major capital projects, part of the second issuance of Measure L. So Measure L has 4 issuances, and we're near the end of the second. So in addition to the data center, we also completed a new aquatic center in the second issuance, and we're currently at work on the Early Childhood Education Center in North County, and that should be completed sometime later this fall. Some other issues we're working on in the second issuance include major infrastructure projects such as technology, asphalt projects, roofing, and ADA upgrades as well. So I don't normally stand in the middle of Lot 5, but I am here to kind of emphasize some of the repaving and asphalt projects that we've done with Measure L. Lot 5, as you can see, is looking pretty good. The Morro Bay entrance has been repaved, as has the service roads. Lot 6, and we're working on some other things as well. One of the benefits of the pandemic, there are very few benefits of the pandemic, but one of them is that some of the bidding for the asphalt projects has come in much better than we had anticipated, and that's because a lot of folks are looking for work and oil is much cheaper. So we've achieved a lot of savings in Measure L over the last few months because of the pandemic, and that's allowing us to stretch the dollars further and do some more good things with it. Looking ahead over the next few years, we have a lot more roofs, HVACs and ADA repairs and upgrades in front of us, more site infrastructure and utility projects, yet more asphalt, signage and wayfinding, VoIP telecommunications project that will replace our existing 1980s era telephones, and also planning and design for a new campus center will be happening in the very near future. So that's all for my update. I want to welcome you back to campus. And as a personal note, I want to thank you for all the great work that you do. And I know this firsthand, not just from observing you in my daily role here as the Vice President of Administrative Services, but my own son, Owen, spent his sophomore year on campus last year at Cuesta. He had a fantastic experience, and he's transferred to Cal Poly successfully. And I know he's really appreciative of the work that you all do to make students successful here, as am I. So thank you, have a great term, and I'll see you around campus.